right, I just bought myself a donor car, and this is, I think, the lowest miles engine and the worst car itself I've ever bought. It's got 99,000 miles on it. I can't actually read the odometer because there's so much stuff going on, so many service warnings, airbag, brakes. I think every light is on that can be on. The license plates are out of date by I think 5 years. Welcome back to another episode of No Bolts Left Behind. Today, I'm taking another blown out 20-year-old SUV off the face of the earth, and not a moment too soon for this one, because it is seriously, seriously ugly. Today, I'm gonna strip this thing down, take out the V8, and get it ready to put in the Corvette. All right, so I guess I should explain a little bit more about what I got going on here. This is a 2003 GMC Yukon, which is very, very similar to the Chevy Tahoe and Silverado trucks. Of course, I bought this to be the donor car for my engine swap for my recently purchased 1974 Corvette. I'd say this is a pretty good example of she may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts. Because inside this engine bay, we have a magical little V8, which is the truck version of the Chevy LS. This is a 4.8 liter, which has a little bit less horsepower than the 5.3, but is also less expensive. And they say better for boosting. And speaking of cheap, I bought this big purple piece of junk for 2,400 bones, which I predict I can make back selling the rest of the parts of this car that I don't need. So what I should have here is a free, complete running and driving LS swap kit. And of course I've done this before on this channel with the recent Mustang build, stripping out the Ford Explorer for its 5.0. And I actually did it 3 builds ago when I stripped out a Dodge Durango for the 5.7 Hemi for my Challenger. So far I've done a Dodge, I've done a Ford, and now I'm gonna do a Chevy. I've become kind of an expert at destroying late 90s and early 2000s SUVs. And I wanna see how fast I can do it this time. It's 8:45 in the morning, and I'm gonna guess 12 hours I'll have this engine out. All by myself, I don't have any help today. So we'll see if I can get it done in 12 hours, and let's get started. All right, before I completely take this thing apart, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do a compression check on the engine, as per tradition. And this is a good idea while the engine's still running to do this, because it's, I'm able to still crank over this thing and just make sure all of the cylinders are good. You never know. And I wanna know now if I have a bad head gasket or even a bad cylinder. Hopefully I don't. This thing is super low miles, but yeah, you never know. So I'm gonna pull off those spark plugs, pull off the spark plug wires, and we'll see how it goes. All right, I got all of the spark plugs out of here, and before we do the compression test, let's pull out the fuel pump relay or fuse or something like that. Let's see here, F pump, that must be it. Yeah, this should be it. All right, let's see if we hear any noise now. All right, definitely no fuel pump. So I guess this is the moment of truth. Let's get the engine compression tester on there and crank this thing over. All right, full throttle. I always get nervous. All right, 150, just a hair over. Now it's in the green zone, so that's good. It seems like this gauge always reads like 150, so as long as these are all the same or very close, I'll be happy. All right, super good news. We have good compression all around, it seems like, or at least equal compression. And at first I was worried about this first cylinder because it was a little bit low here at 152, and these guys got all the way up to 175, but I hooked up this battery charger because this battery is pretty much toasted. So I think that little extra, strength out of the battery got this guy back up. I am using a very cheap, like $5 compression tester, so this is actually very, very close. I mean, the biggest discrepancy here, 165 to 175, is less than 10%. And I think the threshold is somewhere around like 15%. As long as they're within 15% of each other, you're good. So this is actually a particularly good motor. I'm so relieved because you never know. I know this thing only has 99,000 miles, but it could have been underwater or it could have been any number of things. So huge relief. I think I'm gonna put this up on the wall just to make myself feel better. Right there is where that thing's gonna go. Cool. All right. Now I feel very comfortable about tearing this thing apart because this motor definitely will end up in my Corvette. All right, I got this whole front end torn apart. This one actually pretty quick. There's a lot of like plastic clips holding stuff on this thing, so I was able just to pull stuff out of here pretty easily. And now my favorite part of any engine pull, I'm gonna cut the front end off of this car, and then we'll be able just to grab the engine and pretty much pull it straight out. We don't have to go up over the radiator core support or anything like that. So let me go grab my Sawzall. Let's get this thing hacked up. All right, that was very easy. And this has to be the widest engine bay that I've had to work with. After cutting this thing, I feel like I can fit 2 engines out at once. So I'm gonna start just getting rid of all this accessory stuff. Obviously, unwiring it, unplugging all of the wires, that is. And I guess exhaust, transmission, let's see. I think this is the ECU, which is a little crazy that it's in the engine bay. That's okay. It's got a little house. So yeah, hood off, engine crane in. We'll pull this guy out. All right, so I got all of the wires pulled back except for one ground cable back here that I can't really quite get to. So I think at this point I'm gonna go ahead and pull this intake manifold. Do myself a huge favor when I'm pulling this engine out because it's gonna be a little tough to get this thing, around this guy here, and there aren't really good access points to bolt on my chain. So I've only been at this for about 3 hours. So definitely the Chevy so far is by far the quickest SUV engine pull I've done. So it's looking promising. all the wires are definitely gone off of this thing. Exhaust has been cut and taken out. I got the manifolds off as well. I think that's it. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Got the drive shaft off and tucked away over there for later use. Yeah, I think it's time to put a little weight on this guy. We'll pull off the engine mount bolts, pull out the transmission cross member, and she should come right out of here, I think. All right, there it is. And got her on the cart, looking good. And it's 6:20. So that means that we'll say we started at about 10. So that's about 8 hours. And in the middle of the day, I took about an hour to sell some parts off the car. So I would say about 7 to 8 hours completely on your own. You can pull out an LS motor out of a Chevy truck. Whew, all right. I got a lot of cleanup to do. I got to figure out where I'm going to put this thing for the night. And I'll finish off the strip down of this car. And very importantly, figure out how to get all of this wiring out of here. All right, so I got everything pulled off the car that I think I'm going to need. Let's take a little inventory of what we got here. We got the ECU, very important. We have the engine wiring harness right here. Complete engine wiring harness, no cuts. I got the exhaust manifold. I have the intake manifold. I'm not sure if either of these are going to fit, but I'm going to hang on to them. Possibly I'll use one of them or both of them or neither of them. We'll have to see. And we got the mass airflow sensor right there. And we have the gas pedal, which is a drive-by-wire gas pedal. And last but not least, we do have the drive shaft tucked away somewhere. Oh, right there. Drive shaft right there. All right. So I think that's it. Everything else I'm gonna have to fabricate or add or whatever, but I'm excited. All right, I'm tired, but very proud that I got this motor out completely on my own. 7 hours from start to finish. It's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm super dirty. I'm sure my face looks crazy dirty, but this is what you look like when you pull an engine out in one day. Yeah, I'm now the proud owner of an LS engine. Cheers. There she goes. Godspeed, 2003 Yukon, and thank you for your sacrifice. You shall ride eternal, shiny and chrome.